Hello, this is Neil from iPaintGirls.com, and in this tutorial we're going to cover how to draw hands from the mind. That is, if you want to be a concept artist or let's say a comic artist, you want to be able to draw things quickly from your mind. In this case, you want to be able to draw the hand from your mind. The reason why the hand is so difficult to learn how to draw, I think, is because it's like a figure in of itself. So just like it takes a long time to learn how to draw the human figure from your mind, it takes a while to learn how to draw the hand from your mind. But if you break it down into its basic parts, it's not as difficult. So the first thing then is we're going to look at the different parts of the hand, and we'll go ahead and go through that. So if I'm going to go ahead and turn down this layer here. I'm going to use blue. So the first thing is, let's say you have your wrist, and I'm going to zoom in a bit here. So let's say you have your wrist, and I should be drawing on this layer here, and you draw your wrist like that. Now imagine extending your wrist out, and that's all you're doing is extending the wrist out, and then you have a kind of curve to it like that at the end. After you extend the wrist out, the thumb and part of the palm extend out past the wrist itself. And so you can have this kind of triangle wedge that you're going to be drawing here for the thumb, and then you can have this part here that you're going to be adding on to that shape. So the overall shape then ends up looking like this for the top of the hand. So just remember that on both sides of the wrist and the hand actually sticks out some. And that's important to memorize. The next thing then is to put in the bone structure, because having that bone structure is going to help you when drawing the hand from your mind. So you have this kind of angled line here for the knuckles. The knuckles are not a straight line, so don't draw the knuckles on a straight line, draw them on this angled line. These are the things to remember, and this is why drawing the hand can be very difficult, because there's so many relations to remember. Just like with the human figure, there's so many relations to remember to draw it from your mind properly. Take that same line and extend it outward for the other knuckles. This pinky is a little bit short, and there's different kinds of hands. The first thing is from where the wrist comes to where the knuckles are is about the same length as the fingers. Now, like I said, there's different kinds of hands, so sometimes the fingers are a little bit longer than this shape, and sometimes they're a little bit shorter than this shape. And if you're into palm reading, that means different things. Okay, so the things to memorize then is you have about the same length from here to here and here to here. The next thing you can do then, you can actually just kind of draw shape out for where the fingers are going to lie in. You know the fingers are going to go in there somewhere. Let's say the fingers are more spread out, you'd kind of draw the shape more like that or something, or even out like this, because you're going to have the fingers really spread out. But remember, they fall on the same angle here. That's important. The fingertips, the knuckles, they all fall like on a curved angle. They're not straight. After you kind of have the measurements out for where you know everything's going to end up, like the tallest fingers and stuff like that, then you can draw skeletal structures that are going to be connecting where you want the fingers to actually appear, like that. I'm even going to turn this down even more, because what's important is what I'm drawing here. You can also draw on the knuckle big circles for where the knuckles are going to be. I recommend big circles because this will help you define the shape of the finger. And then you have other knuckles toward the tips of the finger. With the thumb, I like to imagine there's one knuckle here where it can bend, then another knuckle here, and this will help me draw the shape of the thumb as I have my wire framework out there. Another thing to remember is down this, you can draw a center line down here. The hand actually can turn inward. It can bend at that center line. So when you pull your thumb and pinky together, you'll notice that your hand kind of bends and folds in half almost. So it's an important thing to remember when drawing the hand in different positions. Some of those lines I can erase because I don't need them. I guess I'll keep those lines there just to remember. The next stage then is drawing the actual fingers onto the hand. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that layer altogether for a moment here. And so what you can do is kind of just draw a loose shape of the finger all together like this. And that's just a basic shape of the finger. And then you can add the bone structure onto it, depending on how fat the hand is. Can you see the knuckles like that? And so I'm just going to slightly make it to where you can see those knuckles a little bit. And then I know up here somewhere, depending on where the fingernails start, and it kind of comes out like an angle like this. I'm going to have it extend out past the finger a little bit. Then you have the finger coming off like that. So that would be how you draw the fingers. With the thumb, you kind of come in and you can draw that knuckle, That way those two knuckles are kind of visible. The skin doesn't be kind of, coming in like that, wrinkly. You have this under part of the thumb coming up like this, and sometimes you'll have this little lump like that, and then you can have, show the fingernail depending on, where the thumb is and how much of the fingernail you can see. It might even come way down here like this. You might be able to see that much of the fingernail. Typically the thumbnail doesn't extend out past the thumb unless the guy grows his thumbnail long like I do. I'm going to have the same basic finger shape here. This just helps me get like the thickness of the finger and the length of the finger, which is going to come out to that skeletal structure that I had built before. And then once I have that basic shape to the finger, then I can come in and refine it by adding, just little bits of knuckle where I think they might appear. And then I'm going to add in the fingernail. And actually I'm going to start a little bit lower than that. I'll add the fingernail coming out. And it comes out at a slight angle like this, so it's not, and I'm going to pull down those lines like that. And I know I can add in, the little bit of knuckle lines here. There's going to be knuckle lines here. Typically it's 3 or 2. And then I can start erasing this here to add more detail. You can start erasing all of it as you, begin to refine the hand. And you're going to have when the hand is, pressed up like this and it's not bent over at all, you can't see the knuckles as like you would see in a fist, but instead you see the tendons. And so the tendons look kind of like that. And all the tendons come down to this point here, basically to this middle point. And I think that's important to remember too. So you can kind of just hint at, some of those tendon lines and how much shows up, and you can just put some you can put some shade lines too to show that they're shading and stuff. I just want to show that they're there for now. You would continue doing that for all the other fingers, and remember, there'll be where the fingers kind of meet, there'll be little skin showing on the other side, and that's like the your flap of skin in between the fingers, and you can kind of see that sometimes depending on what angle you're viewing the hand at. I can add finally the pinky, and I can have, depends what kind of finger the person has. You can have different kinds of pinkies. And I'm add a little bit of bone structure there. Have the nail coming off. And then finally this finger here, I'm going to have the nail kind of coming out a little bit longer than the finger itself. Kind of draw that, oops, I want that knuckle to be apparent a little bit. And now you start to have a hand, as you can see. Once you have those parts memorized, and that the length is what's important. Just like when you memorize how to draw a human body, it's relation of length. So you have this length and this length about the same. And I'm going to use a different color to show this. And then you have 3 segmented legs that are not the same, but the first 2 are kind of the same. The first 2 knuckles are like the same length. So within that length that you have that length there, you can divide that length now like this. So you have about equal lengths here and here, and then equal length at the tip, but it doesn't, it also, no, that's not quite right, because rather you'd have about equal lengths from the knuckle to the knuckle like that, and then you'd have that little short length at the end, which is like the fingernail and a little bit more than the fingernail. And that's where if you bend your fingers in a claw-like way, like try to bend your fingers totally in every joint you can, that last one is like the end of that knuckle right there, and up here, that's the last part of the shape. So divide the fingers into that shape there. So you'd have, let's say this is a finger, you'd have like this, and then a final shape like that. That'd be like how you divide it. So an easy way to do that is to have the knuckles approximately evenly shaped apart on the line, like where it's about that far there. So it's like how far is that? That's about, this is the whole line. How far are you drawing the center of the knuckle there? Looks about maybe almost like a third of the line. So yeah, it's kind of a third of the line. Then you draw your knuckle there, and then you draw your other knuckle about the same distance, and that will give you that overall shape properly of the finger. Right. Hopefully that helps. And then next that we're going to do is the underside of the hand, because as you do the top side of the hand, underside of the hand, there are some things that are different, but this will help solidify the concept into your mind. So when you do begin to draw the hands from different angles, which we'll do in this tutorial, it'll make more sense of how we're deriving that from our mind. It's important to have these pieces within your head these pieces of relations and information that you can draw the hand from different angles. So when drawing the hand from the underside, some things change, and the main thing that changes is you don't see the knuckles on the top. Instead, you see the pads of the finger. And so what you do then is the same thing: extend the wrist out like you would before, and then you kind of do that angle there. And so the thumb is going to be on this side over here, the right side. The same thing then, you want to kind of draw that triangle wedge. That remains the same because the thumb comes out away from the wrist like that. And then if you were to draw this into this line into the palm pad, you'd have this other palm, and it's extend outside the wrist as well, like that. So not that far out, but yeah, it extends out a little bit, and it kind of has this shape like this, usually something like that, and then that's where that finger is going to be. So overall, now I have the shape of my hand. I'm going to draw the knuckle here for the thumb, pull the skeletal structure out, and then that's where I know the thumb is going to lie, somewhere within that area there. Alright, anyway, so something like that. Just want to get it basic shapes out there. The thumb looks a little too long, so what I would do is and also I want it to be angled up more, so I'm going to draw the line a little bit more like this and have that knuckle there, and so I know the length of my thumb is going to fit somewhere in there, something like that. Okay. Next then is the pads here, which can be similar to the knuckles, so you can draw squares if you want to differentiate them from knuckles from the upside, but they kind of go like that, and that's the pads. So now the relation now is from here to here is the same from here to here, but you have the pads in between. That's where the knuckles are on the other side of the hand, and that's approximately the relation that you're going to get between lengths there on the underside. That's the main thing that changes. Again, follow that same angle that you're kind of coming down here with. I'm going to put skeletal structures for my fingers, and I'm going to get rid of that line because that's not a skeletal structure. That was just a dividing line. And I'm going to have this finger coming out over here somewhere. So something like that. And then I know that these are the knuckles on the other side, but I'm looking at the underside of the hand, so I'm not going to draw those knuckles. But I am going to draw these knuckles. I want them kind of big, so I have the overall shape of my finger. These ones are going to be a lot smaller, and actually I need to put this one down a lot more because the pinky needs to be a lot shorter than that. Just making sure everything's falling here pretty good. So I think that'll work right now for me. And then I want to do the basic shape of fingers so I can have something to follow. I'm not worried about the actual shape of the finger yet. This is just a loose guide, so I have something to look at. So I can go, okay, yeah, it looks about right. The thickness and everything looks about right, and then I can go on from there. Once you have this loose drawing, then then you can start refining that drawing. And again, the wrist is coming down right about here and here. I don't want that to come out that far, quite that far, so I'm going to bring that in a little bit. But, oops. Okay. Right, so something like that. I can then zoom in, and this is where I would begin refining my hand a little bit. Remember, we're not going to have nails on this side. I like to sometimes bring that line in like that. I want to kind of show that, oops, I don't want that much of a knuckle, but I do want to show there's some knuckle there, like that. And then from this underside, again, I wanted to pull that line in like, oops, right about there. And then there's going to be that gap where they meet. And I'm going to kind of erase some of this here. So from this underside, there's going to be like lines. They kind of curve like this. And that's just to show, where the bend lines, the wrinkles where, and there's a couple in here like that. Okay, so I want to show the tip of the finger. You couldn't even draw the nails coming out a little bit, depending if they have long nails or not. And then you can have, the wrinkle here, and the wrinkle here, and the wrinkles there. Another thing important, I think, from the underhand is you have the lines that overlap the fingers like that, and then the fingers come off from this side. I'm actually not going into too much detail for the underside here. I might be able to see a little bit of that. I'm just trying to think of how fat I want the tip of the finger here. Again, a little bit of little curved line, a couple of lines like that. Then you have the pads, and you can kind of just shade, draw some shade lines if you, just kind of show that, hey, there are pads there if you wanted to. And then of course you'd have this line, that pad line there, and then this line up here. And remember, this is where the hand can fold right here. Like imagine there's a line here. This can fold and come inward, so almost like folds like a taco sort of, but not quite that drastic, but it does fold a little bit. Okay, so, and then these are the things to remember about the difference from the underside of the hand. And actually, I think I might have made this right here a little bit too long. So what I would do, if I was drawing this for real, and it's going to be part of something, I would just shorten it like that. And then, now I can just go in. When I go to draw my final lines, this is a sketch. When I go draw my final ink lines, it'll look cool because it'll be the way I want it. And the thumb is a little bit big too. I can always change that. It's not a big deal. That way, when I go to do my final sketch lines, everything, my final lines, whatever. So something like this. Then I can, go ahead and pull where I want the lines to be and everything. Make sure everything looks right to me. And then voila, I have an underside of a hand that I could then, build on top of with my final ink lines, or my final painting, whatever it is I'm going to be doing. So what's important then with the underside and the top side of the hand is to remember those relations. So before you even continue to move on with the hand, to try to draw the hand from different angles, be able to draw the hand from the front and the underside from memory. You need to know those relations before you continue to move on, because things only get harder. And if you don't have that foundation, then things are just going to be, they're going to seem ridiculously hard when you're trying to draw hands from your mind from all these different positions. So please take the time to fill up pages full of hands from just basic front and back sides like this. You can change up the shape too, like you can put all the fingers together. So instead of being spread out like that, you can have all the fingers pulled together like that. You can have the fingers spread out further, and practice different things like that. But practice the hand from top and bottom, and then move on to the next thing, which will be drawing the hand from different angles and positions.